Hey, how's it going, everyone? And welcome back to welcome to the first episode of our Lovecraft Country recap series that we're doing here over on the FilmSpeak channel, where after every episode of HBO's latest series, Lovecraft Country, you can come back here and we're going to be having a discussion. We're going to be breaking down the episodes, dissecting them. And trust me, you're going to want to tune in because there's kind of a lot to digest with these episodes. So guys, first of all, if you are tuning in, I'm assuming that you are watching Lovecraft Country. Go ahead and let me know down in the comments below what you thought of Season 1, Episode 1, titled Sundown. I want to start a conversation in the comments section and start getting the theories running and all that stuff. But I am not alone on these recaps. I will be joined by panelists every week. And today I am thrilled to have two fantastic guests with me. First of all, Elliot from Movie Files. Dude, how's it going, man?
Hey, man, it is an honor to be on FilmSpeak, man. Big fan of the channel. So, yeah,
Thank
man,
you.
This was a show that was highly, highly anticipated for me. HBO, Jordan Peele, J.J. Abrams, this cast, this crew. I was excited, very excited to talk about this pilot episode because, as we all know with TV, it can go one of two ways. So, very excited to talk about it with you all today.
Yeah, well, and especially with J.J. Abrams involved, you know, sometimes it's like the pilots for his shows can either be, they'll hook you, but it's like, does the rest of the series, live up to that pilot? And obviously we'll see as we go through here with the weeks. But we're also joined by Jared Buckendall from J Buck Studios. Jared, how's it going, buddy?
What's going on, man? Appreciate the invite over. I'm surprised you keep inviting me back over for these shows and breakdowns and everything, but it's an honor to be, with both of you guys. I'm excited to talk about this because, I mean, echoing everything Elliot said, plus I love some weird creatures and stuff, and this episode definitely has some creatures.
Yeah, and especially like right off the bat, which we'll get into in a second. But yeah, again, guys, we want to hear all your thoughts and opinions down in the comments section below before we start diving into this. So yes, so the episode is titled Sundown. It is the season premiere of Lovecraft Country and is directed by Jan de Mange, which if you guys are not familiar with him, he did a great film called 71, or it's either 71 or 77 with Jack O'Connell, and it is just yeah, it's an excellent film. And actually, I believe he was in the running to direct a Bond film at one point in time before it eventually went to Cary Fukunaga. So needless to say, I mean, I was just really curious to see what Jan de Mange was going to do with a pilot episode of a TV series. And then obviously you got Jordan Peele, Misha Green, J.J. Abrams, and all these people involved. I was not familiar with the book. I had not read the book, so I have nothing to compare this to. But from what my understanding is, they're different enough to the point where you don't have to have read the book to really get this. And I've also heard that the book isn't that good. So maybe it's a good thing that I haven't read the book. But have either of you read the book?
I have not. Nope.
No, if it doesn't have, pictures or anything, I'm not going to probably read it. So, no, but as far as like H.P. Lovecraft, I've seen one of his like adaptations, the Color Out of Space with Nicolas Cage, which I thought was an interesting film. So that was like my first introduction to like his sci-fi horror type of genre. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's actually another good question because this is an interesting case where like I know who H.P. Lovecraft is. I'm familiar with like, Cthulhu, and basically I have a general a sense of Lovecraftian lore and whatnot. But going into this, I mean, like, I have no idea the kind of monsters and the type of stuff they're going to pull from in order to, create this series. So I don't know. It's going to be like a fun ride for me as well, just to sort of like, get more in like, I guess, be introduced to more of Lovecraft's lore and whatnot. Because, because I'm not really familiar with it. But Jared, are you too familiar with Lovecraft lore? Or?
Again, you mentioned the big one, Cthulhu. That's about the only one I know. And then anything with tentacles, a bunch of eyeballs, and creepy, slimy or something. That's kind of what I get from Lovecraft whenever I hear that term.
Yeah, no, for sure. Which, they're going all in on the marketing with the tentacles and stuff. But all right, let's get into this thing. Season 1, Episode 1. Jared, we'll start with you. What are your overall thoughts? Do you like it? Are you excited for what the show has in store for us going forward?
Yeah, this first episode, I think that this was a perfect pilot opening kind of showing of what potentially 10 episodes could be, because it's a great introduction to the characters, the aesthetic of the 1950s, and kind of this duality of what's more scary to black people at that time? The police, racism, stuff like that, or these kind of creatures that go bump in the night? And I like how they kind of balance that in just certain aspects, and we'll get into specifics later, I'm sure. But there's this very tense scene with a police officer that very much goes straight into this like night in the woods type situation that I was fully on board for. So for a first showing of this show, for myself, I'm very much on board for it.
Yeah, I agree. And I real quickly before we go to Elliot, you brought up something that I think, you know, whenever genre does this and it does it well, it makes for some of the best, you know, sci-fi and horror stuff out there. And it's using fictional monsters to, you know, emphasize or highlight the real monsters of our world, which this episode definitely does towards the back half of it. But Elliot, going over to you, what did you think of this pilot episode, and are you all in?
Yeah, I mean, this is for someone that watches a lot of TV. I've seen the great pilot episodes, but then the rest of the season doesn't really live up to that expectations. And I've seen bad pilot episodes, but then the series kind of picks its rhythm and gets into the tone, and you really kind of fall in love with it. But this was just a really great pilot episode. Like Jared said, it sets the stage. You meet the characters. You get the more grounded reality of what the situation is in the Jim Crow era. And then we transition into that Lovecraftian horrific elements with the monsters and the creatures and all that we'll dive into. So I thought it was great. And just knowing that J.J. Abrams, which, you know, as a producer of this project, you can kind of see why they picked them too, because JJ did a lot with monsters, whether it be Super 8 or Lost or, you know, all the films he's worked on. And then you bring in Jordan Peele, like Jared was saying, the humanity element, right? The monster, the horrific elements that humanity has. And they pick two great directors, because I think of I think of Jordan with Get Out and Black Klansman and Us, how he touches on the dark, deeper kind of demons that we have within ourselves. So I think they're two great producers to be on this project. And I thought this first episode really kind of displayed what I was really looking forward to with the show.
Yeah, for sure. I think it is, like, when watching it, it is the perfect melding of both of those filmmakers. But I think the real credit has to go to Misha Green, though, because it is like she's for all intents and purposes the creator of the show, and she's the one who brought her vision to the table here. And yeah, we can see the elements of the more well-known filmmakers in there, but I think we get a sense of the kind of storyteller that Misha Green is. You know, I think she's willing to embrace, like, you know, the spectacle and the absurdity of, not really absurdity, but just like the grandiosity of you know, of the Lovecraft lore and of just, like, you know, genre in general. But you know, similar to someone like a Jordan Peele, it's all rooted in, like, you know, human nature and the social issues of the time. And I think she kind of arrives with a very confident voice and vision for this show. And then, you know, taking it a step further, I think Jan Demange directs the hell out of this episode. Yeah, I mean, it really feels like a feature length film, to be honest with you. Yeah. Like, by the time it ended, I was like, no, keep going, please. I'm just getting involved and invested in just like the way it's ended, like after the monsters come out and shit, you know, hits the fan. Yeah. I wanted more instantly, which is exactly what you want from a pilot episode. You want it to hook you right at the very end, which this show definitely does. So, yeah, I guess from a direction standpoint, did you guys like what Jan Demange brought to the table?
Go ahead, Elliot.
Yeah, no, to say, I mean, just from Jump Street, man, we get into the mind of Atticus, our main character, and just seeing that battle sequence and aliens, spaceships in the sky. We get the big squirm monster and the woman coming out of the sky. I'm just in awe. So going back to just the direction and the production, that's something I always look forward to with any HBO series, whether it be a procedural like I was watching Perry Mason or something earlier this year with The Outsider. Their production is just so far and beyond any other, you know, maybe Netflix can compete with them with their certain shows, but the production value, the direction, it was strong, it was confident. You could tell that he knew these characters, he knew the story, the through line that he wanted to present to the audience. And I think the direction was incredible. I haven't seen the full list of directors. I've only seen like the first 6 or 7 directors. I hope he comes back to maybe direct the second to last episode of the finale, because I think
that would be great.
Really strong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that, Jared.
Yeah, no, again, echoing pretty much everything Elliot said. I mean, 30 seconds in, I'm sold because it's like you're
so
saying, it's this
awesome.
battle scene. There's
Yeah,
aliens. There's like a Spartan in the background stabbing people. Then all of a sudden, Jackie Robinson splits open Cthulhu.
Oh my God,
Like
yeah.
I had to rewind it because I was like, is this the right show? Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
I was on board for it.
Yeah.
And I 100% agree, and I'm glad that they didn't show any of that in the marketing because they very easily could have. They just showed Cthulhu in the marketing, but which of course you have to because it's Lovecraft. But like, they could have very easily spoiled that whole opening in like trailers and TV spots and stuff like that. But no, it's just we get Atticus having that daydream on the bus, with his love of just like pulp fiction and stuff like that. That's the other thing that I really loved is sort of what they were the entire episode is dealing with Atticus, loving like adventure stories and he was talking about the Princess of Mars, which is basically John Carter, to that woman, and she's tells him he's a Confederate soldier, and he's like, well, kind of have to overlook that because the adventure is just so darn good. And he's like, it's the closest he can get to going on that adventure for like a young, I guess young, but just like I guess he is kind of young, so let's say a young African American. And I think just in a larger context that speaks to the importance of this show, the representation in this show for African Americans to have a show like this that is that where the main characters go on an adventure and they encounter like these crazy quests and these monsters and stuff like that. And so it's the perfect way to start a series like this. And it's very meta. And I thought that they did a good job of, threading that needle there. So yeah, at least for me, that was one of my favorite parts. But then going back to just like the opening in general, I mean, it's just
fantastic.
Like it immediately hooks you. You're just like, what the? I don't know what the hell I'm watching, but I'm so I like the Cthulhu. Like, oh my God, it was great. It was great. I had
like
my mind blown.
Kid again, dude. Like just coming up with like just random things when you're playing with your toys. You have like Power Rangers mixing in with GI Joe, mixing in with your Star Wars toys.
That's exactly what it felt like. So, yeah.
Well, and Elliot, you're saying that both of you guys were saying that it was this kind of an adventure. Like he wants to go on an adventure, and it turns into almost a road trip type episode. Like they're stopping in all of these different towns. They're running into roadblocks here or there. Everywhere they're stopping, and then it ends in this very grand scale that I'm sure we'll get into later. But yeah, that's kind of the feel that I got of this episode of just like, here's a mystery, here's this adventure. Let's get on the road and let's go.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is the movie does a really good job of setting the stage, of establishing these characters, of introducing us to Jurnee Smollett-Bell's character, Uncle George. I forget the actor who plays him, but Uncle George, and then which I loved him. That opening scene with him and his wife was just like so great. And when it cuts to the daughter outside the room with her,
like,
doing it. Yeah, she's like, it's great. I loved him so much. And then Atticus and such. But yeah, it not only does it do a great job of establishing the characters, but just like the streets of Chicago and stuff like that, and just like the what life was like was there. I guess the freedom of expression, just like the love was sort of like a very important thing. And what the show really does well is it beautifully contrasts that with all of these Jim Crow cities that they go visit on the way for Uncle George basically to create his it was like a safe travel guide for African Americans. Yeah, which is just like when you start off with just all of this, just like openness and love, and then you go to just like this, which is it's basically hell. I thought it was it's a really nice dichotomy that they have going on there. But I don't know what you guys thought, but
yeah, no, I mean Uncle George was great. I think it's Courtney B. Vance, if I'm not mistaken. I thought he was phenomenal and American. When he was Betrayal with the Ryan Murphy show, I thought he was great as the lawyer. But nevertheless, I thought that his introduction and again what you just said, Griffin, regarding just the we get the crazy sci-fi elements, but then we slow down in pace and we meet these characters. We go to Chicago, which I'm from Chicago, so whenever I see Chicago, I always have a little bias there. But no, seeing the love, the community aspect, and seeing where these characters come from, and kind of understand even though we don't have to have a scene of a flashback of, Tick as a young kid and him being picked on and him, Liddy and all those as kids. So we understand this by just conversation from pictures on the wall. Just, again, it doesn't give you an exposition jump on who these people are. You just can kind of tell by the environment and the atmosphere or where they come up from when they were younger. So I just love those elements of their Chicago background.
Yeah, it was all so natural. I'm glad you brought that up, because it was like, people, like, it very easily could have just been like divulged through just like, someone talking about him while he's off doing something. Oh yeah, he went off to war and he's never been the same since. And like, it's just, he used to be this really nerdy kid. It's like, no, they just let the the community and their interactions just with other people speak for themselves. So I thought it was such a beautiful way of establishing these characters. But Jared, how about you?
Oh yeah, no, exactly. Like one good scene is when Letty first shows up and like her sister, I think is it Ruby, sees her. You can see that there's kind of like a little bit of a conflict there. She's been away, she's kind of doing her own life. She's very much down on her luck, out of money and whatnot. And you don't have to have someone explain that to you. You get it right there from the things she's going through. And then jumping on to Uncle George and like you're saying Atticus as well. It's all set up there in the first like 10, 15 minutes, and then you're boom when the car starts leaving the town
on the
road trip. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think the montage of the road trip was really good too. We didn't we got the gist of everything in there, and we get the dynamic of the group as they're sort of like traveling along the journey, and the chemistry between everyone. I mean, we'll probably be talking about this all season, but just like Jonathan Majors, Jurnee Smollett-Bell, and Courtney B. Vance, and everyone in this episode. I loved spending time with them. I think that's like the best thing that I can say about it. And I this is only the first episode, so we only know what it's seen here. But I could see sort of like where they'll explore different things. Like obviously with Atticus, Jonathan Majors, we'll explore like his time serving in the war, which I think weirdly enough, watching this, I was like, this is kind of a nice companion piece to The Five Bloods. Because it's like, at least with his character, it's tackling like a similar thing where it's, he's a guy who's just like, he's wanted adventure his whole life. He loves these novels. And the only way he was able to find adventure was by joining the army, which is basically another instance of the U.S. using him or using African Americans to fight a war for a country that, wouldn't afford them. Right. So I think there's going to be a lot of interesting, exploration regarding that. Obviously with Letitia, I have to imagine her whole family dynamic is going to come back to haunt her a little bit, and we'll see that sort of going down the road. And then obviously with Uncle George and the relationship with his his wife and his family and stuff like that. But for you guys, what did you does what they set up, I guess, these characters sort of get you excited for the trajectory of their arcs?
Yeah, I mean, starting with like Uncle George again, I think that you get that old soul, that guy with all the wisdom and sees the hope in humanity and sees kind of the light in people. But there was a little bit of mysterious aspects to Uncle George. There's a bit of a brotherhood that seems to be on the rocks as well with him and his brother. Atticus' missing father. So what's going on with that? It seems to be some secret that they've been keeping amongst each other in this first episode. And then there's a moment where we see Uncle George pull out a picture of a young lady that doesn't look like his wife. So that's something to explore as well. So definitely some gray area with that character that we think has a very good moral compass, but there's some skeletons in his closet. And then going back to our main lead, that relationship, I'm a sucker for father-daughter relationships, father-son relationships. Is like, okay, his dad doesn't like the fact that he went to the military. Like you said, Griffin, him going to serve into a country that doesn't show him any respect or treat him as a human being, right? So there's that relationship there going there. And then Liddy, like you said, seems to be this theme of family secrets and family brothers and sisters not being on the same page. And there's definitely some backstory that we're going to get with those three characters. So off the bat, within, again, the first 20 minutes, we're learning about stuff for these characters that may have taken 3 episodes to maybe, give us these little Easter eggs. So it just sets the stage for something that is going to get a well-developed kind of character arc with these three main leads. So I'm definitely loving everything we got within the first half hour of the show.
Yeah, for sure. Jared?
Yeah, Elliot, you hit it you took the words right out of my mouth when you said skeletons in
Seems
the closet.
doing that a
feel like-
lot.
I know.
He seems to be doing that a lot this episode.
I think everyone has, you see them as one point of view where they're all, kind of happy-go-lucky, there's great chemistry and whatnot, but I think that they all kind of have this dark side hidden to them, potentially Jonathan Majors, Atticus, he has maybe PTSD from the war. Who knows? We might see that. And then, stuff with Uncle George, like you're saying, that picture from the wallet and whatnot. But I also did like that hopeful side to things where when they went to that restaurant that, you find out is not the restaurant that they were looking for.
Yeah.
Uncle George is just like, let's give it a try. Let's let's go along with this. While you see Atticus be very much cautious about things, very much on the edge of his seat. He's a very cautionary tale almost of don't trust anyone.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, and I think instances like that are where we get nice character moments of obviously he's a little he's always looking for the exit, probably because of his military background and his training. And Uncle George, is obviously he's an old soul. He's been around for a while, and he's just kind of sick of the norms, and so he's just gonna go in there and just see what happens. It's just sort of like a fuck it case. Unfortunately, it just so happened that it was in I believe that happened in a sundown town, because that's when the guys start chasing them with the rifles and everything. And which, by the way, those chase sequences were great. I thought they were shot well. They were exhilarating. It felt very Indiana Jones to me. I don't know about what you guys thought.
Yeah, chase sequences. We've seen the great ones in the Bourne movies and things of that nature, and your Fast and Furious. But it's when you see it on the show level, when they handle it to, again, get you on the edge of your seat, makes you kind of worried about our characters and the stakes that are at hand. So I love those. Again, the show just has such a great pacing of, again, hitting you in the mouth to start off with, letting you cool down, meet these characters, and then ratcheting things back up when they get into, I think it was Devon was the town that they were in, and again the road cross country, and we're seeing, which again I love that the show isn't afraid to tackle the racism that's going on, right?
Well,
What I was saying, because I know a lot of people have been comparing it to, and I think it's just got to go hand in hand because it was on HBO, like Watchmen. Everyone's like, oh, is it like Watchmen? Which I think the only thing that has a relation to the two is that it does deal with racism and polices and things of that nature. But that's about the extent of the connection I can see there. But I love that the show, as we see our characters leaving their home of happiness and love and the family and friends, and as they're on this road trip, we now see to start to set the stage for the other monsters, the human monsters. We're seeing they're getting to get gas, and you're seeing the guy impersonate a monkey when they're looking at our main cast. We see that they're at an ice cream shop, and it's the white onlys and the color tier they're not getting attended to. So you're seeing, and I can't think of the poem that they were reading in the background, which actually sets the stage too of that.
Yeah, that was
time era. Very powerful speech there. So again, the show is just doing such a good job of just the pacing. The pacing is so well done. But again, that road trip, you see the dark side of humanity, especially during that times.
Well, 100%. And one of the things that really stuck out to me was, through advertisement, because actually this episode to me was just really meta, because I already talked about the adventure, and it's finally an adventure story with representation, that sort of being a big thing. And I think, when they're going on this journey, we see the media depiction of whites versus blacks and during the time in Jim Crow America, and it's something that's still relevant. It's a battle that Hollywood still faces today with just stereotyping certain demographics when it comes to roles, and it's again going back to the heart of this show, it's breaking those norms, and it's doing something interesting and different. It's the layers like that, and the thought that went into stuff like that makes this, that really just sort of made me love this show even more than I did. It really does have something to say, and it's doing it in such a nuanced yet powerful way. Yeah. I don't know, Jared. Jared, I don't know if you have anything to sort of add to that, but
it does a great job of making the characters feel safe for about 10 seconds, and then all of a sudden it like Elliot said, ratchets up to this very dangerous setting that they're in. And that one montage that we kind of hinted at, that I think that did such a great job of really showing you quickly what they're dealing with from town to town and the struggles that they're going to have to deal with throughout this series. And I guess that car chase, I did not expect that at all. Just freely shooting down the streets, down the highways, getting chased down. It was part of the show that, like, the action-packed part of this episode that I didn't really know would be part of this show, I guess, and I appreciated it. Plus, it kind of that car crash and the introduction of this mysterious blonde woman, kind of like what's going on with that. It definitely gives you a lot of answers to the characters and the setting and whatnot, but also gives you a lot of mystery of who is going to come out of the woodwork for these characters or these people that showed up later on in the episode.
Yeah, let's. I'm glad you brought that up because that'll be a nice segue into theories and stuff like that. So I guess obviously this film definitely has that sort of like J.J. Abrams mystery box sort of vibe to it. Tick gets the mysterious letter from his father, and he's going to basically find him as a result of it. Now, full disclosure, all three of us have seen episode 2, and in fact, Jared has seen the first 5 episodes. So we'll try and speak as freely as we can without giving anything away. But when it comes to his lineage and stuff like that, I get what are you guys sort of like thinking in terms of that? And Jared, if you can be as coy with this as possible.
You guys talk first, and I'll fill in the non-existent blanks that there might be.
Yeah. So for me, and just I guess just really focusing on the first episode as far as the theories and the mystery. So again, we we know his father's missing, but then we also hear that his mother died, and we really don't get any reasons why, what happened. Again, is there that picture in the wallet that alludes to maybe some type of Uncle George and his mother might have had a relationship before his dad got into the picture. So we'll see what goes on with that.
Right,
but I think the biggest thing was just a matter of, okay, where's his father? Was his father looking for answers? Is his father held captive? I mean, there was just so many things going on with it within that first episode, as far as also family history. It's like, where are the connections of who his past is tied into, and does it have anything to do with maybe any abilities that some of our characters may have in regard to certain birthrights and things of that nature. So very interesting stuff about the parents that really got me interested to see where things go.
Yeah, so J.J. Abrams always with the parents. Always with the parents, man. It's like, Steven Spielberg has a fascination with with father and son relationships, and it's like J.J. Abrams just wants to do mystery boxes around like, oh, who are the parents? Like, are they someone important? It's like, no, it's interesting, but like that. But that was the big one that kind of stuck out to me. Is it's like, obviously, like right off the bat, you kind of get the feel that like Atticus is someone who's like destined for more. It's like he belongs to like a lineage of powerful people, and I think the whole gist of the show is basically like reclaiming like the power that was taken from him. Right. So I'm really curious to see where it goes, because like even 2 episodes in, I'm not entirely sure where they're going with it, and I'm sort of trying to sort out like does he have any abilities, or is it just a case of I don't even know. It's like I feel like the possibilities are so endless at this point that I can't even like begin to hypothesize about where the characters are going. But I don't know, Jared, do you have anything to add?
Well, it's just the fact that the mystery angle. Like, I love a good mystery. Missing person. They're trying to figure out what's going on, and there's those little tiny hints that they give. The blonde woman shows up, but also she's driving the exact same vehicle that was said to have seen with the father, 2 weeks prior. So there might be something behind there, because she also helps somehow using powers, because that other car flips over that silver car. And then there's that mysterious mansion at the end where they kind of are like, we know who you are. So it's like, how do you know who we are? We're looking for you, but you apparently were looking for us.
Right. I'm glad you brought up the car thing, because that was like, I think when I watched that before I went on to watch episode 2, I watched that and I was like, oh, was that a mistake? Did they flip the car before?
Yes, I was thinking the same thing. Like, oh, they cut way too soon. They showed us behind the scenes. We weren't supposed to see this.
Yep.
Yes.
I was like, that's so really bad editing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
just
the viewers at home, there is an explanation behind that technique of how the car flipped without hitting the car. So
Right. Yeah, it was just one of those instances. I was just like, oh, wow, you're really going back to old-timey adventure serials. It's like, I saw the car not even hit the other car, and it flipped. Like, what the hell is going on?
You see the boom mic in the shot, and the wires turning the car over, and the stuntman.
The whole background's green.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. No, I agree. But no, she was, that was interesting. I guess when, like, she sort of, like, came out, and, like, they looked at her, and then it just sort of, like, cut away from it. I will say, the one thing that that was a bit iffy for me is the was the editing and the transitions from place to place. I thought it was really like abrupt and jarring, and like using that as an example, it felt like, okay, something really interesting happened here. She's someone that we're going to want to keep an eye on for the future, but it just, like, we barely get to look at her, and we barely get the reaction shot, and just, like, boom, cuts away to, like, the another place on the map, and I'm just like, okay, all right, that's interesting. I would have liked maybe a little bit more time to marinate on what just happened, because I felt like it happened so quickly, but I don't know. And I feel like there were a few instances of that where stuff was going on, and it either, like, cut to a map or it just, like, cut away from a scene, like, really just abruptly. And I don't know, because truthfully, I feel like that was the only thing that sort of, like, hindered the episode for me, at least from, like, giving it a perfect score. I don't know what you guys think, but Elliot, starting with you.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's always the little things we can, nitpick with, whether it be editing choices. There was this is really kind of small, minor thing, but going back to the Chicago Times, it was interesting how the show embraced the music of that time. But then there was one musical cue that was, like, modern hip hop that was like, whoa, I was like, that kind of caught me off guard. It was like, I thought we were playing into the whole idea of it being in the 50s, but then they had, like I said, a very modern hip hop. So there's, like, the little things that the show, I think, was kind of just, like, creatively speaking, could have been a little bit different. But again, very minor things that didn't really overall change my, thoughts and love in this first episode. But again, you could always pick out some little minor cues of music and editing and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing. But real quick before we go to you, Jared, that was, I agree with that. I think that that sort of, like, continues on throughout, at least what I've seen of this show. It feels like it is trying to be, like, a throwback to those classic adventure serials, the stuff that inspired, like, Indiana Jones, like true pulp fiction, not the movie Pulp Fiction by Tarantino, true like pulp fiction. Yeah. Which I love, and I love when it's doing that. But then it sort of, like, sprinkles in the modern elements, and I don't know if it blends as well as they think it does. And this is especially true for the second episode, but at least for this first one, that music selection was interesting. But yeah, Jared, going to you.
Yeah, the transitions and editing, again, these are very minor nitpicks for myself because I thoroughly enjoyed this first episode. But yeah, the transitions or getting from place to place felt a bit clunky at times, and again, that's a nitpick. But the switch between the modern music and the music of that time or that setting, it took me out a little bit. And I thought that they would do a thing where they're maybe taking modern music today, but getting, like, a cover of it that is very much, like, influencing that time, like almost a postmodern jukebox type flow or feeling. But they didn't. So I'm curious if that's going to be the kind of counterbalance that's going throughout all of these episodes, where it's like, oh, here's something that's maybe to that time, but here's, like, some hip hop, maybe some Cardi B or something like that.
we hear WAP popping up.
Oh god, that's probably in episode 9.
Spoiler: WAP pops up in episode 2. You just don't know it yet. Yeah, no, I agree. It's just one of those things, because it's like the show as a whole doesn't really, like, from just, like, a filmmaking standpoint, it doesn't really tread that line between like a modern, like a jukebox musical or whatever, something like that, just like one of those things versus the traditional pulp fiction. It really roots itself into just, like, the time period and whatnot. So that's why those music choices are a bit strange, but I guess HBO has to sell soundtracks, so I
get that money.
I don't know. It's interesting, but okay. So I guess let's get to the climax of this episode before we start wrapping it up, because that's where shit really starts to hit the fan. We get to the part with the cop when they're in the forest, and like literally as soon as the police car shows up, you know that we're gonna be in for some just like rough shit. And we are, to say the least. So the cop confronts all of them on their journey, and you know, Tick basically gets them out of the situation, but they have to get out of the county that they're in before sundown, because it is a sundown town, which basically means when the sun goes down, it's open season, and these racist pigs can basically just, you know, shoot any black person that comes into their area. So that first of all, that whole like tailing sequence was like edge of your seat, suspenseful, and I think it was probably some of my favorite, you know, stuff in the episode. I don't know what you both thought, but.
Yeah, it was great. It was and I think it was like the last 20 minutes of the show. And again, like you said up top, Griffin, that's the hook. That's the thing that you always look for in a show. It's just like, what's going to make me come back next week? And that whole sequence, again, in the title Sundown, is a double meaning within that last 20 minutes, because obviously we're talking about a town that literally has a rule, a law. If black people are out during the times, you could just kill them right on sight. But then the sci-fi element, Sundown, monsters come out at night, as they say. So I love that double play on the word there. But yeah, the tension, the intensity in our characters, you were just like, oh my goodness, are they going to make it out of the county before sundown, which they do? But like Jaren said, there are many bumps in the road, and they get, you know, pulled over by the rest of the policemen. So yeah, that whole sequence leading up until, you know, we'll talk about the vampires in a bit, but that whole setup was just like tension filled and just like the edge of your seat moment. And I love, like I said, the double play of that word sundown just really was really cool for me, because I love when shows, as you guys know, the meme on Instagram with Leo from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, when they say the title,
he's like,
I love when the title plays into the actual, like they don't just give it a random name, like it has a meaning to the show. So I love that the sundown had that meaning to the ending.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. Well, and you could take it a step further, because once the vampires come out, then the cops sort of become the vampires, and it's like, now it's like, okay, now we're just like going even further with that. But yeah, Jared, what about you?
Yeah, I think like you guys are saying, the last 20 minutes are what this episode is all about, or at least the cherry on top, because right when that cop shows up, you know, in the woods, it's a very tense conversation, and they're like, well, you can go that way, but you're not going to make it. Well, what about this way? Okay, but you're still maybe not going to make it. And then he has to ask for a U-turn. And that was probably one of the most tense scenes I have watched this year, for a car going 25 miles an hour. Like, this is not a crazy
oh my God,
this is very,
yeah.
It's so drawn out, and it's like, I can't speed because I'm going to get pulled over. And you can see them looking in the rear view. There's no car. And then all of a sudden the police comes around the corner, and it's just terrifying, because you're like, are they going to make it? Are they going to make it? And then when they come over that hill and there's a roadblock, you're like, they didn't make it. And then it takes you into the woods, and that's when some sci-fi crazy shit goes down that I was so excited for.
Yeah, that's when the Lovecraft lore comes out to play, and they hinted at it a little bit later on when I think like Tick was talking about the like many-eyed beast. I have no idea what those things are called, but the like vampire.
So I looked it up. The one that he was talking about the many-eyed beast, I think that was something else, but this one kind of was it. I think it's called a ghast, where Ghast, where it was kind of like a big lumbering creature that very much a vampiric, comes out at night. So yeah, so many eyeballs, so many crazy things, moving so fast, ripping people's arms off. Like, these things were crazy.
That was gnarly. I was really happy with how good the violence and carnage was at the end, because I was like, all right, like I could see it holding back a little bit and being a little too PG-13. Nah, they go full R. It's so good. And yeah, it starts off with the guy gets his arm ripped off, and then like a bunch of other people get picked off, and they're just like running through the woods. It's got like that high frame rate and everything. And then the cop that they were warned about, the main guy who originally pulled them over, he obviously gets his shoulder bitten. I actually thought he was the one who got his arm like bitten off for a second. Too. I was like, how is he still alive? And then he turns, actually, like, why is that not squirting out? But and then he turns into the vampire, and that was Oh man, that was
So great.
the CG was so
great.
good. It was
Yes.
so good. The body horror. I was like, yes, give me more of this. This is perfect. Use the horror elements to like build the tension and take a already horrific situation and dial it up to like 11. This is exactly what I want from the show. So yeah, that whole carnage is just it was great. And I genuinely didn't know if like Uncle George or any of them.
Those bad knees,
Dude, I thought he was a goner, man. I really did. I was like, damn it. I'm such a fan. I don't want you gone in the first episode. Thankfully, he made it out alive.
Yeah.
And then we get that whistle that calls the things away. And then, okay, we got another mystery there that we have to solve. What is that? Who is controlling them? Obviously, someone is let for lack of a better term, kind of like let the dogs loose on them and stuff. And so, and then they finally show up at what's the name of the town again? It's
Ardham.
Ardham. Yeah. I wanted to say Arkham, and that was the thing they said in the joke. Yeah, right. Ardham. Yeah. So then they show up at the this giant mansion, and they see the silver car again that saved them before, and then the door opens, and this very pale man with blonde hair is like, well, we've been expecting you, and this just like, and then the episode ends, and I'm like, well, you've hooked me. Like, I literally like, how can I not continue watching this show after that? So I don't know, any final thoughts for you guys, or anything else you kind of wanted to touch on specifically regarding this episode?
No, I think you summed up that last 20 minutes up perfectly, man. Being a horror fan of myself and seeing the practicality of the blood and also the CGI, I'm always a stickler of like, you can do the best of both worlds, but don't just rely so heavily on CGI. And even though the creature was CGI, it was still a good mixture of the practical effects. And I'm a big fan of when like someone explodes, someone gets shots in the head, and you see like our audience, like our heroes' reaction, and they're just like covered in blood. Things is going crazy. And then the best line in the entire show is where we're seeing that cop transform into the vampire, and we see, Uncle George. You need to shoot him.
Oh man, that line.
It was so good. It was so good. Yeah.
I just love that.
Oh gosh.
Back to like slasher horror films mixed in with vampire, werewolf type of things, where it's just like you are the audience. Those are the type of things, and this is completely different segue into like the movie theater experience. Those are the type of moments when you watch a show or a movie where it's like with an audience, everyone's excited, the adrenaline's running, and you see that moment with the vampires. Unbelievable. I just love those last 20 minutes, man. That was just great.
Oh yeah, for sure. Jared?
Yeah. That's the thing is like, even in these very tense situations, there's that subtle humor because he's like, son, you need to shoot that guy. Because he's just like, you think they're kind of safe or they're at least barricaded up. And then that chief or the sheriff just starts coughing, and it's very deep cough. And you're like, oh, we are not safe at all. And then gets smoked by the car. I don't know. I just love that whole last 20 minutes because I rewatched it today, and it was so good.
Yeah. It was great. I mean, it was the hints of humor in there are great. Well, and that's the thing is like the film, it kind of feels like a movie, which I've definitely already said, but like the show has like, it has in the truest of sense, it's like an adventure, film and stuff like that. It was so much so to the point where it's like after I finished watching it, like I wanted to go watch Indiana Jones after it. And dude, I have been missing stuff like this for so long. Yeah. Like I have no idea why the adventure genre is like basically an untapped market right now. Like Indiana Jones, we should have like 7 of those films by this point.
Uncharted, man.
Uncharted should be like one of the number one franchises in the world. Like we should have like 3 of those movies. Tomb Raider should be a massive success, and so on and so forth. And so like to get something like this that harkens back to the spirit of those, has the social commentary, brings on the horror elements. It's like, oh my gosh, it's so refreshing. And I think a lot of people are definitely going to latch on to that. I hope those of you who are watching can agree with us when it comes to that. But yeah, I mean, what a blast. What an absolute blast. Like truly one of the best pilots I think I've seen in a while. Like I thought Watchmen was really good last year. I'd probably put that up there. But man, I don't know. The last time I saw, I don't know. Can you guys remember the last pilot that really like hooked you like this?
Well, it's kind of in this, Watchmen definitely comes to mind. As I had mentioned earlier, the Stephen King book turned to a show, The Outsider, I thought was a really good hook for the first episode. I know Jaren, you did too as well. I finally watched The Boys, and I thought The Boys first episode
The Boys is really
phenomenal,
good.
really get you in that world. So those kind of come to mind. But yeah, this one really stuck the landing because again, it set the stage for the sci-fi that we were looking for, the horror elements. But then you get those quieter moments. It's not all action packed. It's not all supernatural. We're learning these characters because it makes it that much more serious, and the stakes are so much higher and heightened when we know these characters and we can care for the characters. So when we see them in a room with a vampire, we want them to get out. So I love that we get that setup from the characters. And it is another mystery I forgot to mention earlier. The young lady on the phone that called someone in Korea. I don't know, is that something that we should keep an eye out for in future episodes? But yeah, this again, the mystery, the missing father, the road trip, the vampires, the racism. I mean, this show gives you everything.
It gives you
in an
everything.
hour. The movies get in 2 hours that this show is able to accomplish in 1 hour.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Jared?
Oh yeah, no, I just loved it. I loved all of it. I'm not the biggest TV guy, but I think The Boys is probably the most recent thing that's kind of popped for myself. But
I agree with you. Yeah,
this was just something special. So I really hope. I mean, spoiler, obviously, I've seen 5 episodes, but I really hope that this vibe, that what they're doing here, continues throughout the whole season.
Yeah. No, I again, echoing everything that you guys said. And when we're talking about shows like Watchmen, The Boys, and stuff of that nature, like those are like obviously some of the best shows on television. So for this to come right out of the gate and like immediately we're saying like, okay, this pilot is on par with them. That's how you know you got a good show on their hands. So I hope it continues, and I can't wait to watch the rest of the season. I'm so stoked for it. But guys, before we close this out, we want to know what you all are thinking. Again, leave us your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. And if you liked our discussion, be sure to like the video, share with your Lovecraft Country loving friends, and be sure to subscribe to this channel for more recaps and reviews of Lovecraft Country coming your way every Sunday. And then also a whole bunch of other movie stuff going on here. We'll probably recap The Boys and stuff season 2 when that comes around and whatnot. But thank you to my 2 panelists for joining me today, Elliot and Jared. Elliot, where can we all find you?
Yeah, man. Hey, I love talking TV. So when I get to talk to it with these awesome gentlemen, it's always just the cherry on top, as Jared said earlier. So yeah, guys, you can find me here at the YouTubes at Movie Files. So very similar to the 2 other guys on this channel. I do movie reviews, TV reviews. I do a lot of watch alongs. So there's a lot of fun stuff going on in Movie Files. So definitely check me out, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on all my other social media accounts as well. So this was fun, guys.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll have all this stuff in the description down below. Mr. Jared Buckendahl, thank you again for coming on and joining me. Where can everyone find you?
Yep, Griffin, always a pleasure. And Elliot, always fun talking with you. You guys can find me at JBuck Studios here on YouTube. Just doing movie stuff, TV stuff, random shenanigan comedy stuff. I have a live show every Tuesday. And I actually just started a Twitch channel. So if you like gaming, jump over to JBuck Studios on Twitch. Give me a follow. Oh. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I'm just doing it all, I guess.
I didn't know you started a Twitch. That's interesting. Yeah, so JBuck Gaming. There we go. Yep. There we go. No, yeah, definitely go check out their channels, and we will absolutely have them back on for more Lovecraft Country recaps. So you'll see their faces again. Don't worry about that. But lastly, guys, you can, if you feel so inclined, you can like FilmSpeak on Facebook, follow us on Twitter simply by searching FilmSpeak, and then if you like me specifically and you like what I have to say, you can give me a follow on Twitter at Griff Schiller. All right, guys, thank you for joining us on this review and recap of Lovecraft Country Season 1, Episode 1. We'll see you back next week for episode number 2, and until then, take care.